Bueno. So I will now first start. Welcome, everyone. We are a little bit over time, but we try now to have it roughly in the schedule. And yeah, very welcome. Very proud to see an auditorio so full of people interested in the therapeutic use of psychedelic substances. My name is Dóra Révész. I am Hungarian, originally Hungarian, but then I grew up in the Netherlands and now I live here on Fuerteventura. I'm the founder of the Psychedelic Association Fuerteventura. So I am the founder of the Psychedelic Association Fuerteventura. And I'm also an epidemiologist, so I come from the scientific side. And then slowly I moved also in the practical side as a psychedelic integration coach and a facilitator. I don't know if from here I can also move to the other, or every time I have to say that I have to move to the next slide. I don't know if I have a pointer as well. No pointer? So I have to say next slide, or tick, okay. All right. So first I wanted to say a big thank you to our collaborators and also our media partners and our main sponsor, which is a local sponsor from Fuerteventura, Delta Botanics. So thank you all for helping to organize this big event. Next slide. And this is the core team that I also want to give like a big thanks, working really hard to organize this event. And big thanks to these 6 people that have been working hard behind the scenes. Next slide. First, I want to give you a warning, because not everything that I will be talking about will be scientific. And I consider myself like a yuppie, a young urban professional. I am white, I am privileged. I have maybe a different opinion than many other people in this world. And I will be presenting to you my reality. So how I see a lot of the things. So therefore my warning. Next slide. So this will be my reality that I will be showing to you. Next slide. As many of you know, Humphrey Osmond coined the term psychedelics, which is psyche for soul or mind, and delic for manifesting. So soul or mind manifesting. Next slide. Where do the psychedelics come from? Well, they come from all over the world. Next click. This is roughly a few of the psychedelic substances that you can find that we are aware of, because there are so many more that you could think of. They are spread all over the world, so every continent had several psychedelic substances growing. Maybe by now we have cut down most of them, or we don't know about them, but every continent has them. Next slide. And they are also used by humans since an ancient time. So here we, for example, see the ancient Greeks drinking the kykeon drink, which was a drink that was a ritual that they did underground to have less fear of death. And in the Hinduism, they were also drinking, so Shiva is shown here drinking soma, which is most probably a combination of cannabis, magic mushrooms, and ephedra. Next slide. In the top, we also see Jesus on one of the very old buildings in Germany, depicted with magic mushrooms. They as psilocybe cubensis and Amanita muscaria probably played a big role already in early Christianity. Also, in ancient cave paintings on the right in the bottom that are found in Algeria, you already see like mushrooms that the people have been using. And then you see the drawing by the Native Americans of the peyote cactus. So next slide. The benefits for ancient humans. There have been several. If you read roughly why those people were using these substances, it was to get, these were community rituals. So they did it with the whole tribe. It was a cleaning of parasites as well. They were rejuvenating or for immortality, getting closer to the divine, and also for the healing of physical, mental, and all kinds of imbalances, emotional imbalances. Next slide. Also, animals consume a lot of these substances. So on the left above, you see bees eating nicotine and caffeine-containing nectar. In the middle, jaguars eating the viaje. Dolphins snuffing pufferfish. Monkeys eating the ibogaine root. And goats also scavenging for little psychedelic lichens on the rocks. So next slide. What was the benefit? Next slide. Thank you. What was the benefit for these animals? They were better in hunting. They're better in foraging. They had increased vision. So this was already good for their hunting. They were more social, so reproducing better. And they also did their physical cleaning, so the detoxing. So next slide. Sacred plants that have been used already in a lot of indigenous populations. Here you see people from all over the world, from the tribes in the Amazon to Aboriginals, to Siberia, and to the Bwiti people in Africa. They were closer to these ancient rituals. They are still closer to these ancient rituals in how they perform these rituals. They are more connected to nature. And how are we as the Western society? If we go to the next slide. If you click one more time, these are some clinics from, for example, in Canada or in Australia, or in Spain as well. We have more hospitalized settings, and we are a lot further from nature in our ways of using these psychedelic substances. And we are all treating a mental illness, which was not always the case. So there's always one client versus one therapist. Next slide. So I'm kind of making this rough comparison between how the indigenous cultures have used these substances versus our Western approach. So if you click once, then you will see the indigenous that use a lot more natural ingredients. They also do the rituals as a whole community, so the whole village is maybe joining these rituals. They are healing, but they are also connecting to the soul or divine or something which is at a higher realm. And they are all respecting the nature while they do this. They live in close connection to the nature. And how are the Western? We have now I would not say hype, but it's like something that a lot of researchers are saying, the personalized medicine. So every patient needs a specific dose depending on the body weight and needs maybe a specific type of medicine. So very personalized, let's say, very individualistic. So we are not going there with our entire family. We are using these substances alone. We are treating mental and physical problems. Physical maybe less than mental, mostly the mental problems still. And overall of what we are kind of, a lot of people are consuming these substances, and part of it is also to escape maybe from our reality. Like, please, a lot of the psychedelic substances are of course used in a clinical setting, but a lot of the part that is done underground is partly also to escape from this reality. So if you go to the next slide, where are we now at this moment? So next. We are now facing the legality, which is, this is roughly point by point how it is in Europe. I mean, every country has specific rules, but in Europe overall, a lot of the plants have been, so the ingredients, so psilocybin, DMT, or mescaline, are on the Schedule 1 list. But the plants itself, they are not on this list. So the plants itself, like wachuma or magic mushrooms, they are not on this list yet, so they are in a gray zone. And none of these plants have been approved for medical treatment in Europe yet. Maybe especially except for ketamine, which is used for treatment-resistant depression as an off-label medicine. Psilocybin is in phase 2 also for depression, for treatment-resistant depression. And in Denmark, magic mushrooms, psilocybin, are also used for addiction problems. And MDMA is in phase 3 for PTSD. Next slide. Here you see all over the world, there are quite some websites that have an overview all over the world where the substances are legalized or only for medical use or only for religious use. So I will probably not tell about each country, but overall in South America you see that a lot of the plants are legalized, and a lot where you don't see anything is often there's there are no rules for this yet. Okay, next slide. Overall, I think what we can say, what happens in scientific research, that there are very high costs for the licenses. So people, it is very expensive to do scientific research with psychedelic substances. And the funding is mostly done by private donors or bigger companies. And let's say the European governments, they are discouraged to fund. So it's becoming more and more difficult or more to find funding for your scientific research. And maybe many of us know this as we are, part of us are researchers or clinicians that want to do research. Overall, it's becoming, the whole legal landscape is becoming more, is pushing you more to use synthetic ingredients instead of the natural substances. So slowly we go from the use of plants to the use of pills and nose sprays. So I'm not giving any opinion about this, but I'm just pointing this out. Next slide. So here you see that the psychedelic research has been growing, especially there was a peak in the 80s, but then, of course, for a long time, nothing. And now since the year 2000, it has been booming. And if we go to the next slide, there are several mechanisms that are known for why these psychedelic substances work. Maybe you have already been here during the morning when the young researchers were explaining about several of these hypotheses. Unfortunately, I could not attend it. I was at the laptop, but roughly I give here an overview of the mechanisms of these substances. So there are several types of receptors through which they work. There is increased neuroplasticity, and so, for example, through the brain-derived neurotropic factor. There are anti-inflammatory effects of these substances, and they have several effects on the brain. And there are also altered metaphysical beliefs. So if we go to the next slide, this is, especially the last one, is something that has stuck to me, that you cannot fix one problem with the same consciousness or thinking that already got you into the situation. So we are, this is something that has to do with a lot of mental health problems. Because if we go to the next slide, here, if you look at this picture, this is how our brain works. We think that this picture is moving, but it is a still picture. And our brain is kind of programmed to believe that there is a movement in this. If you go to the next slide. According to a group of researchers, this is like a transdiagnostic problem of all psychopathology, that we are stuck in these beliefs, that there's one way our brain is used to think and we cannot step out of this thinking, out of this program. So if you go to the next slide, the rebus is what these psychedelics can do to us. They relax the beliefs that we have under the use of psychedelics. So these beliefs have then less weight, and this then leads to liberation, or in this way maybe treating this fixed belief we have. So if you go to the next slide, this is like one way to look at how we are used to think. When we go from A to B, then there is one way that our brain can solve the problem. If you click, then you see that this is how our brain is then used to fix a problem. But then if we use the psychedelic substances, then we go to the next one, this kind of clears the entire icy crevasse that's in our brain, let's say. And now we can go several ways from the problem to the solution. So this is, it opens you up in this way. So I was thinking, that is all very beautiful. I am here on Fuerteventura. What will I do with my programs here on Fuerteventura? How will I get my knowledge out to more people? As we don't have a university, there's no research institute that I can join here, and this is still the place that I love, so what am I going to do here? So I started drawing. If you click to the next one, I started making like a little drawing, like I will make an association, and then if you click more, then I gave it a bit color, and then with the help of Kind from Fractalma, if you go to the next one, he made it like a digitalized it for me, and if you go to the next one, we created the association in April 2022, and with the logo in October. And if you go to the next one, then we already had our first psychedelic conference in 2022. And we had another one in 2023. And now we are here at Fuertedélica, and we have a bigger team, a bigger room, and 2 days of speakers and activities. And if you go to the next one, so one more click. Fuertedélica will this year consist of several tables. We will be talking about several well-known psychedelic substances that are already in the clinics or almost in, or investigated. We will compare a little bit the approaches between Spain and the Amazon. It will be a very multidisciplinary conference this year, and we have been guided with the music of Hi-Fi Fuerteventura, and we also have documentaries, even though today we could not show the documentary about ayahuasca yet, but for sure we will find a moment that we can show this to you. So if we put all this together, if you click one more, this is like all this knowledge that we will collect here. If you click further, this is like a little ball that we will all bring with us after this conference. If you click further, then we will all just put this in our body, and we will bring this further and to get to 5 C's. If you click one more time, during this conference we're going to collect all the knowledge, and we will be conscious of all sides of the coin, hopefully. We will be collaborating, we will get to know new people. We will create next steps of how to go further. And in this way also kind of change the reality, hopefully, that we live in. And with during this conference, I want to give you several questions that were in my mind, that are in my mind of how to get further with this field. And I would like to invite you as well, when you are listening to all the speakers and during the debate, to think about these things. Like, what could we learn from the rituals of indigenous people or ancient humans as well, let's say, and vice versa? Where is that balance between the approaches that we have versus the indigenous people in the way we use these substances, like how we use it? And also think, why are we still as humans so interested in them? What is it that gives us this extra spark of interest? Like, why are these psychedelic substances, why are they still so interesting after all these thousands of years? There must be something so much bigger for us than what we see now. So then there's like the bigger picture, which is mostly in my mind the bigger question, like, why do they exist? Why do these ingredients in these plants, why do they exist, and why do they bring us to other realms? Why does that then actually improve our life, our quality of life? Why do we actually cure people with addictive problems? How is that possible that a plant can do that for us? So So yes, I invite you all during this conference to listen to the conversations, to chat with each other, to get closer to these questions, closer to the next steps. When I was also organizing this conference, I had conversations with people that are already in this field, and they have gone to these conferences 30 years ago, and they said, yes, it's every time there are new speakers, there are beautiful clinical trials, but we don't seem to get any further. So we are still kind of in a certain loop, and I want us all to kind of try to think further altogether. That's the whole reason, for me at least, to organize this whole conference. So I want to thank you all. I think the next slide is a very big thank you to all of you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.